Welcome to Happy and Free Food. I'm Dr. Maureen Craig, Clinical Nurse Specialist for Nephrology, that's the kidneys, and Holistic Nursing. I'm coming to talk to you about trail mix today, and you might think, what? Nuts and dried fruits, aren't those a little bit too much for a whole food, low-fat, whole food, plant-based diet? But I want to tell you a story about what's gone on with my husband. So I'm kind of in a mixed marriage where I followed the whole food, plant-based method, but my husband was relatively resistant to it. So I decided, okay, I was listening to Dr. Joel Kahn, and I was asking him about how I might convince my husband to make a transition, concerned about his heart health. He said, well, why don't you have him do a coronary calcium CT scan? And so we had him do that test. Well, his number came back at 480. And you want it to be at least under 100 to show that you have no heart disease going on. So of course it was a big wake-up call to him, and he thought a little bit about it, and he says, you know, food doesn't matter that much to me, and he is really on the thin side his whole life. And that's why he thought he didn't really need to make many dietary changes, I suspect. But he agreed. He says, let me just eat these foods that you suggest. So he wasn't really into a lot of the soups and salads. He wouldn't really find those appealing. So he ate baked potatoes, corn, and some guacamole with corn chips that were baked. And trail mix, and you might think trail mix, how crazy, but remember Dr. Greger in his Daily Dozen does talk about the nuts and how valuable the nuts are, and nuts and seeds. And so I thought, let's give it a try. I think some of these, in particular walnuts, even Dr. Esselstyn says those are okay. So put some of these in, and this is one of his main foods as he enjoys this trail mix. So here, let's show you what happens, and then I'll tell you at the end what happened to his cholesterol, okay? So we're going to start here with preparing a little container that we're going to put in all of our mix of nuts and seeds. And what I've done is I've selected, when you buy regular trail mix, it's oftentimes with added oil or salt, similar to these peanuts, and when things are roasted, it increases the advanced glycation end products, and it makes it not quite as healthy, and you tend to absorb more of the calories, and you don't get any more nutrients. So I went mostly with raw nuts, and you just kind of put small quantities in there and mix them up, okay? So here we have some Brazil nuts, and that's for our selenium. And with selenium, you want to, with Brazil nuts, you don't want necessarily a lot of them, and they are kind of large. So what I've done with the Brazil nuts is I just chop them up just a little bit so that they are a little bit more like the size of the other nuts in the container, and then we just take and put those into our container for the trail mix, okay? And then besides Brazil nuts, we have some pecans and walnuts and pumpkin seeds and organic whole cashews and quite a few different dried fruits. The goal is finding nuts that appeal to you, that are unsalted and not roasted or having oil in them, okay? And then with the dried fruits, some of the bigger fruits, like I'm going to show you here on the prunes, what I do is I just cut those into quarters so that they're, again, a little more bite-sized instead of super large. And with the apricots, dried apricots, I tend to cut those in like a little pizza into 6 pieces. And that gets us settled with our dried fruit. Okay, let's go ahead and start filling up our container with our different kinds of nuts. So we've already put in some Brazil nuts. Let's add some pecans. We'll add some cashews. We'll add some walnuts, which we know have those beautiful omega-3 fatty acids. The walnuts tend to be a little more bitter, and so if you only add walnuts, you probably will have a little bit of a trouble with the flavor. So my husband definitely wanted to have a mixture. And then we've had some sprouted pumpkin seeds. If I can go organic, I do. These are great for prostate health, helping keep the urine flowing, and so that's great. And then we're going to move on to our dried fruits, and I basically try and choose everything I can to have a good variety, because as Dr. Will Bolsowitz has told us, it's very valuable to have lots of different plant fibers. So the more I can mix it up, the better. We've got some cranberries, some dried cherries, and you notice that I've put in some of the tart cherries and some of the sweet cherries. So we got 2 different kinds of cherries in there. And then raisins. Raisins are always great in trail mix. And you want your balance to be about half dried fruit and half nuts. And now wild blueberries, super high in antioxidants, love those. And they're already in the small size. And some golden raisins, just for a little different color in there. But of course we love all our dark fruits and vegetables, don't we? Because they're so full of antioxidants. And we already put in the prunes and the apricots. So once it's all in there, then we just kind of mix it up, turn it around, get it into a nice mix here so that you're mixing the flavors. Getting it nice and combined so that each handful has a little bit of all the different interesting flavors. And then you can take and put this into your glass jar, or you can put it into plastic bags and put a date on it, or you might prefer to reuse one of your containers that has it like that, or mason jars if you don't have containers. So let's go ahead and just kind of put some in here, and you can see I'm using this little filler for mason jars. You can get this on Amazon, and we'll try and include a link in the show notes, and you can just kind of put together the different handfuls here of this beautiful trail mix, filling up a jar, and then set it out there for you to enjoy. Okay, now the good news. What happened to Gary's cholesterol? It went from a high of 224 down to 130, so almost a 100-point drop. It was incredible. So really happy about that. Not only that, but his triglycerides also came down. And something I learned is that your ratio between your triglycerides and your HDL is very important. You want it pretty much to be a ratio of 1-to-1. The higher your triglycerides are relative to your HDL, the more insulin resistance you have going on. So his triglycerides also came down from 80-something to 43, and his HDL was in the 45 range. It was in the 50 range, came down to 45. So 43 to 45, or 48, there we go, 43 to 48, pretty much a 1-to-1 ratio. So much better health, and we're glad that he's feeling well and that his heart is working well for now. All right, I hope you enjoyed the trail mix. Bye-bye.